What's up everybody, this is BR, and personally I believe that GTA 5 has one of the best stories in gaming. Not only is it entertaining, but it also carries some heavy themes ranging from friendship to loyalty, something you really wouldn't expect from a game like GTA 5, but if you pay close attention then yeah, it's right there. If you'd like to know more about this, you can watch this video by Leadhead that goes into an in-depth analysis about GTA 5's story. Now, because of this high quality, under many cutscene videos, people are asking, why isn't GTA 5 a movie? And aside from the obvious, it being that GTA 5 is already a game and having a movie would just be redundant, how would GTA 5 look like if it was a movie? And that's what I'm here to find out. Now, I'm gonna be breaking down this project into multiple videos because, well, trying to break down GTA 5 into a movie format is gonna take a long time and a lot of specifics. And there's a lot to talk about that I just can't fit into a single video. And for this first video, we really do have to talk about what changes we have to make in order to make GTA 5 fit a movie. And this is even before we talk about what the plot of the movies would actually look like. So let's go on to our first topic, that being, what makes a good movie? GTA 5 certainly contains a very well written story. The only problem is that it's written for a video game, and because of that, there is a lot of story to go through. Video games have the advantage of not being limited by a 2-hour time slot and also having the player's attention most of the time, or even actually the opposite. The game doesn't actually need the player to understand the story at all to have fun with it. Just put an objective marker and a couple of bad guys and bada bing bada boom, you got a working game. And this is where we face one of the most crucial issues with GTA 5's story. There's just way too much of it. I mean, just imagine all the story that you would have to fit in 2 hours if you were to change GTA 5's complete story into one single movie. You have the FIB, the IAA, Devin Weston, Franklin with Lamar and Stretch, Trevor's businesses, Michael's issues with Martin Madrazo, Trevor kidnapping his wife. There is just way too much to fit into a 2-hour spectacle, or even 3 hours. And we honestly need to be real here. I don't think a movie about a video game, especially with the reputation of other video game movies, is ever going to get that 3-hour budget. So in the end, we're going to have to be splitting GTA 5's story and cutting a lot of it out. And honestly, that works pretty well because overall, GTA 5's story kind of works in a 3-act structure. And for those of you who don't know, the 3-act structure is just the basic framework for movies, you know, beginning, middle, and end. You have the first act, which begins with Michael meeting Franklin all the way up until the jewel store heist. And then you have the second act, which begins with Trevor's return all the way up until Trevor tries to kill Michael. And then you have the third act where Michael reconciles with his family and Trevor all the way up until you kill Devin Weston. But to have all of that into a single movie just seems unfeasible. There would just be too much going on. So instead, each of these acts is going to be their very own movie. This allows us to fit most of GTA 5's story into 2-hour segments, in total 6 hours. The only problem is that we're really going to have to modify the story in order to fit these 3 films, each with their own 3-act structure. Because the best practice on making a movie is having a movie stand on its own. Even with movies that have huge franchises, you don't need to watch every other movie in order to enjoy one. And if we were to try to separate GTA 5's story into 3 separate movies, you would have to watch every other one in order to understand the big picture. This is where we're really going to have to modify the plot to make each movie its own self-contained story. They can still be connected, but it shouldn't be a requirement to watch a previous movie. So now the question is, what 3 self-contained stories should we tell with each movie? Well, when we look at each individual act, it actually becomes pretty easy. The GTA 5 story writers kind of already done that for us. The first movie is just going to focus on Michael and Franklin, most of it dealing with Michael's return as a jewel store robber, and Franklin trying to make some motherfucking paper. The second movie is going to be about Trevor's return and Michael's past, exploring the relationship between Trevor and Michael, really showing that Michael probably is a bigger piece of shit than Trevor, and Franklin pretty much consuming it all. It's also going to include a lot of the shenanigans that they've had with the FIB. And finally, the third movie is just going to be about survival, sticking together and friendship, maybe even forgiveness, because that's exactly what happened during the game. Michael reunites with his family, makes up with Trevor, and they all team up together to take down Devin Weston, and of course the rest of their enemies. These are just big ideas, and I'm certainly going to go into a lot more detail on what to keep and what to cut out, maybe what to move around as well during the future videos. But for now, I think this really does start painting that picture of GTA 5 as a movie series. Each story is now its own self-contained thing, and I'm sure that you would find enjoyment out of each of them while still growing with the cast of GTA 5. Now, I understand that some people are going to be a little bit concerned at this point because I do mention changing and cutting the movie, as in taking creative liberties in order to adapt GTA 5's story into the big screen. And I get why many might not want to do that with GTA 5's story, instead trying to keep it as uncut and unabridged as possible. Video game movies in the past have been extremely unfaithful to their original properties. This also includes TV shows. And this is mostly because directors and writers don't actually really touch the games. They can't be bothered to. Instead, they're just given a synopsis of the story and then they just go from there. But that's not going to happen with our movie. With our movie, we're going to have the perfect director who is going to understand every single little piece of GTA 5 lore. Of course, this is only going to be possible in our imagination, but fuck it, it's our project. We can do whatever we want. And what we're gonna omit and change in the story is only gonna be to the movie's benefit. After all, like I said, there is way too much stuff happening in GTA 5 in order to fit into 3 2-hour movies. While we won't get into the nitty and gritty in this video, you're probably gonna notice a couple of big patterns, them being a shortening of the scope of the story, as in we're gonna crunch down the story from multiple storylines into maybe 1 or 2 storylines, as well as also decreasing the length in order to fit that one movie, or maybe just an act. Omitting scenes that would be good in gameplay but really wouldn't make sense in a movie. And finally, changing character motivations or characters in general in order to fit the new modified storyline, such as making some villains just neutral parties, or having them be a neutral party in one movie and then a villain in the other, etc, etc. Hopefully these changes don't affect the intention of those scenes that much, and maybe we can even supplement it with our own creative additions. Regardless, I think that as long as we keep the basic premise and the basic intentions of those scenes into the movie, then it should all be alright. So now we pretty much have a pretty good basis on how we're gonna take on this movie adaptation. And so we can finally start talking about how GTA 5 would look like as a movie in the next couple videos. So the way that I'm gonna tackle it is, in the beginning of each video, I'm gonna go through the basic ideas of the movie, maybe go through some major plot points, and give my intentions on why those changes should happen, or why the story should be set that way. After that, we'll just go through each major plot point, only stopping when something significant really has to change, or some important addition has to be added into the story. You know, I'm hoping that this adaptation pleases everybody, but if for whatever reason you find an issue with it, maybe some part of the story should have been changed, or maybe some creative liberties were taken too far, I would really appreciate it if you left your opinion under each video, talking about how the movie should have been done. So finally, that just leaves the nitty and gritty. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, make sure to subscribe so you keep up with this project, and if you'd like to support me, my Patreon's in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in part 2.